Welcome back to the Rise podcast. We are settling in on season 1 here. Got to be honest, this week's episode is kind of a big deal. 3 reasons why. I first learned of this gentleman. We're giving you hints here. You already know because his face is on all the content that's been put out. Okay, so I met John originally by viewing YouTube of a coach who I was considering. I'm like, this guy looks interesting. So I knew him, and then all of a sudden, literally, I opened up LinkedIn the next day. I'm like, that guy's back. I'm like, LinkedIn is now listening to me how Facebook is because it's like bringing his profile up. I'm like, wait, he knows people I know. And then all of a sudden, I started digging in on John Morris and his crew over at Club Colors because I knew they were making some noise. But I'll be honest, I did not think, nor did Brittany, nor did Casey, that the apparel industry was popping. It just seems kind of like the copiers and printers. And then all of a sudden, I got something in the mail. It's this beautiful jacket, like a $100 coat from John and his team, because I took their logo challenge. And so I'm going to say the rest of that story for when we get into the logo challenge. John, we welcome you to this week's Rise podcast, sponsored by Tidal, because that's us. And we got to sponsor our own show, I guess, till we get some. We were going to proposition you for that later, by the way. Don't let us forget. We want you to be our sponsor.
I love it. Let's do it. We'll trade sponsorship. I love it. Well, first off, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. You're a very interesting character. When we were doing some research on you and kind of unearthing those things that we could find, you've got a lot going on, man. I mean, on the outside looking in, it looks like you're heading up a bunch of things down at Club Colors. Give us the latest and greatest. Besides the logo challenge, what are you up to today? What are you doing with your team there? And let's start there. And I bet you we can fill up a 40-minute podcast pretty quickly.
So, you know what's interesting? This is the first time in about 20-something years that I don't necessarily have a team of people to manage, which I am kind of freaking out a little bit because at age 24, I started managing salespeople. And I've been a coach. You know, I was an athlete and I was coached by my father for years. And then I played baseball and golf. Not cool in high school. Pretty cool now. Yeah, in October of last year, the CEOs came to, we have co-CEOs, and they said, hey, look, we really see an opening here where we need to start to create content. We need to push the brand. We need to push our podcast. We need to create a holistic approach to brand management beyond, you know, the 3-dimensional apparel pieces and promotional items. We need to be able to advise our clients on how to get their brand message out. And so I went from this role of building a team and working with the executive team to put in systems, controls, and procedures for sustained profitable growth and to make sure that we had graduation levers for our sales team to be able to progress to the next level and just kind of, documenting all the process and how many calls should we make? How many touches should we make? What's the follow-up process? All the things that you would do as a director of sales to really get that going. And then next thing I know, it's like, hey, you're moving into this new role. And I got to be honest with you, imposter syndrome slapped me right in the face of like, what am I going to do with this? But really the hard part for me was, who do I coach now? Who do I put my arm around and say, hey, how can I help? How can I get in the trenches with you and drive a client forward or answer questions or whatever I need to do? What blocks can I throw? And this has been a really interesting move because I had always taken someone else's vision and had to essentially be the person to carry out that vision to the best of my ability. But typically there was already functionality and tactics, and I was just trying to put some icing on that cake and get it to the next level. Now it's a collaboration of vision. So I'm being brought into the executive team to form the vision, to create the clarity of message, to be kind of the pioneer of how we're going to put this process in place. So we've started a division of the company called Reach, where we're going to work with our clients, our current clients who are utilizing us for branded apparel and promotional items and marketing collateral and all those things. And now we're starting to create some noise where they're saying, okay, how do we get that message out on social media? How do we create video content? How do we create podcasts? How do we get on podcasts? How do we sponsor podcasts? So we could talk about that, Steve. But you
I
know,
like
so
this.
so those are the things that that we're working and we're putting together, and it was scary, and now it's like I feel like I've been reborn. I'm awake again, baby. I'm ready. Let's go. We're having fun.
Do you drink coffee in the morning, or do you just wake up with like lightning bolt shooting straight out your ass?
Lightning bolts do shoot. They have isolated me in a solo office by myself, but this is me, baby. This is just how I am. I don't fall asleep. I fall over.
I love that. Now, are you like, what's it from Saturday Night Live? You're good. Stuart Smalley, are you good enough? You coach yourself now.
Yes.
You're like, I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And gosh darn it, people like me.
There's a lot of affirmation happening, mainly in my car at stoplights. People look over and I'm like, I'm just preparing for the next song to come on. I'm mouthing the words like, no, we heard you say you're good enough and smart enough. The new song by Leonard Skinner. No big deal.
One of my favorite car moments, I'd love to. Yeah, you guys should plug them in. I play air drums, and I was living in Minneapolis, and I looked over. We were in traffic, and I'm like playing air drums, and the person next to me just goes like that. Playing air guitar.
Oh yeah.
And then all of a sudden, I'm like, I look over the guy to the right, and I was like, play the bass, and he's just like, what?
Yes. That guy doesn't know how to slap the bass. I mean, if you're gonna have an air band, man, why not do it at a stoplight?
Right.
Which then came up with the idea karaoke, right? For traffic jams.
James Carden took that from you.
Right? That could have been you, Steve.
Gun. A lot of things could have been me. Thank God.
These Hollywood elites, they steal all the good ideas.
Every one of them. I had an idea for a thing called The Tonight Show, stolen. All of it stolen.
My initial name was Johnny Carson, and then someone else took it.
Johnny Carson's my father. No, we could go on.
Keep him away from my mother.
John, this morning, so earlier, you know how I was joking about those 6 a.m. calls? So it was about 5:15 this morning. Steve and I both wake up ready to start the world. So he's used to my 5 a.m. text. And so I was like, Steve, this guy's got to be an athlete. I'm seeing he's giving out the vibes, and I was curious, telling him all day. I was like, I need to know what he played, because you can just see by your demeanor and the way you communicate. And I was like, he talks about coaching his son and all of that, but I was like, no, I need to know more about this man. So it was cool to hear that you played baseball. Did you play in college?
I played for about a week and a half in college. The guy in front of me, I'm a St. Thomas Tommy, right? So I went to St. Thomas,
St. Paul.
So I was all sectional in high school. I went to Carmel High School here in Mundelein, a suburb of Chicago. We took 4th in state. I was a leadoff man, center fielder. Then I was on the golf team. But in baseball, our coach had called up the coach at St. Thomas and, like begged for hey, at least give this guy a shot, right? He's going to bring some energy to the locker room and he's going to dive for everything, right? So I get up there and I'm all excited. I walk in the coach's office. I say, hey, I'm your new center fielder. He's like, I have no idea who you are. Well, it turns out in between the guy that my coach had talked to got canned and the guy that was replacing him had no idea that I was coming in. So the first week of baseball, I find out that this guy in front of me, his name is Tony Fisher. He gets drafted to the Mets out of Division III, which is unheard of. And so I'm talking to a couple of the outfielders as we're shagging fly balls and doing these things. And it turns out that this kid batted 3rd on the team. He led the team in steals, home runs, batting average. So I called my dad. I'm like, I don't think this is going to last very long. He's like, why? I'm like, the guy in front of me is 6'3" and runs like a gazelle. And he's jacked. I mean, he's just hitting bombs left and right. He picked off 4 balls off the wall. I ran into the wall. Didn't make the catch. So, that ended pretty quick. But most of my success in athletics was more in golf, which again, not very cool, but I'm pretty cool now to my friends. I wasn't cool then, that's for sure.
No, I know. I was reading through your about, and you were talking about how you don't know when to quit. And I was like, that's such an athlete thing. That's you just don't know. There's no limit. You just keep figuring it out until you get good at it. So I can totally relate and loved hearing that.
Brittany, it's a youngest of 6 kids thing too.
Oh my gosh.
So youngest of 6 kids, Irish valid. Catholic. And, I have pretty good pedigree. My siblings are very successful. I'm kind of the black sheep in that regard. And, it's a matter of trying to get a word in. and trying to get attention and just like, okay, that didn't work. I'll try this, and until something sticks. So
Joliet, when I say the name of the city, Joliet, what is the first word that comes to your mind?
Joliet Catholic, man. Mike Allstott.
Yeah. Yeah. So my first job out of college, I lived in a Holiday Inn in Joliet.
Boom.
Trading radio ad airtime for a hotel room.
I love it.
I literally lived out of there. My closet was there. Like you're in college, you can't afford clothes anyways. Like I bought a suit at Sears. It was too big because I was skinny then. And I worked at a country radio station selling country radio ads. So for all you young people out there, there is hope.
There is hope.
And I would drive around. To tattoo shops and ended up at a restaurant bar, bellying up to people, having a few drinks.
There's no tattoo shops in Joliet. There's only tattoo shops in Joliet.
Yeah, there was one I distinctly remember, a girl not being clothed when I walked in getting a tattoo. I was like, well, this is interesting. It's Tuesday at noon. But like it was, I spent my first 30 days post-college there, and I literally, I freaked out because I was like, if this is what the real world's like, I'm out, man. And I went back, drove back to South Dakota. I'm like, please love me. Familiarity, please. Someone know my name. Because I like not knowing anybody who knows you or vice versa. So when I hear your college story, like you can walk in, I thought it was a big deal. I didn't have a single window in the office. Yeah. Like there was typewriters, men drinking scotch for breakfast. I was like, well, this is pretty cool. I was just like, where am I? But that's when I think of Chicago, I oddly and affectionately refer to it as, I should have said, when you said moving to Chicago, how close to Chicago do you actually mean? Because I went down there blind and pulled up and I was like, I'm like 42 miles outside of Chicago.
Yeah, Joliet is outside of Chicago, but you're starting to get into where the accent changes a bit. You're starting to get into Southern Illinois version of outside of Chicago. That's about where it starts. It's a different situation. So the cool thing about Chicago, it's all neighborhoods, right?
Yep.
But it's pretty aggressive with the accent the accent, hey, I'm from Chicago. When you get closer to Joliet, that starts to go away. It starts to get a little closer to country.
Well, it was nowhere near. I remember riding the train in and now you fit sort of, when I look at that Chicago guy, you got the look down, man. So you got the goatee, like you just look like someone I'd see walking around downtown. How much business have you done in Chicago versus around Chicago? Have you always been a Chicago guy, and is that where your network's been, or has that changed a lot with the advent of, obviously, the internet?
I started out, after I left college, I was going to be a stand-up comedian, right? So that was the thing. That was like I read your bio that you did theater, right? So I took theater classes. I want to be a comedian. And I needed a way to pay for that because I was pretty much not good. And they don't pay you anything, right? So I got into sales jobs. So I started kind of like going door to door in Chicago, selling there. Mm-hmm. And you catch on real quick that you could end up making a ton of money. You could end up in a knife fight. I mean, you just don't know what's going to happen, right? So luckily I ended up transitioning into more of a corporate setting. And I ended up running the Atlantic coast. So even though I was in the Chicagoland area, most of what I was interacting with in the way of clients was on the Atlantic coast, which is New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And you think that it's tough to deal with small business owners and have those communications with folks in the Chicagoland area. The East Coast, if you're talking toughness, I mean, that's where it's at. Now at Club Colors, we're pretty much national. We're dealing with a lot of academics, right? A lot of colleges, a lot of universities. So the level of sophistication of client that I'm interacting with has increased dramatically.
And a little friendlier, I hope.
Oh my gosh. Much more. The meetings are more like, hey, come on in. This is not what they used to be.
How are you selling on a national scale then? I mean, you've got a whole sales team there. Are they doing outbound prospecting? Because obviously we know that world really well. Tell me about that, because I'd love to find out what different organizations are doing and how you're growing.
Yeah, so it's interesting. We have two divisions of our business, one being corporate, one being collegiate. The collegiate side is very much a licensed-based entry point. So you have to get the licensing to be able to manage their branding, right? To decorate, to do any logo for them. So once you have that license, then you have to get in touch with the proper personnel there. Chief procurement officers, marketing folks, admissions, alumni, and they'll give you the point of entry at that point once you're licensed. And at that point, it's interesting because you get on a preferred list, but you're competing against typically 17, 18, 19 other vendors. So now it's a race to provide the highest level of service, the best follow-up, the best front of mind. Staying front of mind is huge because we're an event-based business, right? Nobody just buys $1,000 worth of logoed pens because they feel like it, right? They're buying it because there is an event, there's admissions, and the collegiate side is very much scheduled. Admissions, then, and graduation, you have all these different portions. So they're always having an event of some sort that they're doing. Well, we deal with the departments. So once you have that, you're going to get one decision maker. You do great work. They then all talk, and you got to stay front of mind. So there is an outbound process on the collegiate side. It's very much organic, and it's very much third-party persuasion and providing amazing service and then asking for introduction to one of their counterparts in a different division of the university. On the corporate side is more in line with what you're talking about, tip of spear. It's a lot of activity. You got to get in front of as many people as you can. You have to present to as many people as you can. You have to be in the right place at the right time when they decide they're going to make a decision. Unfortunately, I hate to say this, but typically the point of entry is because the counterpart or the competition messed up, made a mistake, didn't correct a mistake, whatever it might be. So there's some irritation. They're looking for a replacement, and you've got to be there to capture that. So to your point, it's a lot of casting a wide net, being in the right place. So when they call, you are remembered. You have to be the person remembered and called.
How bad did COVID screw up with your supply chain? Did that screw orders up terribly?
Well, I'll tell you what I did last night, Steve. I listened to your podcast last night for an extended period of time, and I heard you talking about PPE and transitioning it to that, right? And by the way, fascinating story. Your story. I admire you greatly.
Thanks, brother.
But we were up 40% the first 2 months of the first COVID year. COVID hit March 13th or whatever. We were up 40% over the year before, and the year before was a 35% increase. It was a record year. We were up 40% over that trending. And we lost all of that plus 10% in about a 3-week period. So by mid-April, all of the progress that we had, everything that we had built, the whole plan, we're going to hire 18 people in 18 months for sales, just sales, and then scale the other parts of the organization as well. And that all just turned off like a faucet. First thing people cut out is marketing, advertising. It's one of the first things that they cut out. So our CEOs had quite a few closed door meetings. They prepared the executive team and said, hey, look, you need to prepare your team. We don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to figure it out. Our industry very quickly shifted to PPE. So we actually had started to source N95s, masks. I know that you were talking about that. But we were struggling to get the licensing and the certifications and all those things from China to be 100% up and up.
Just make them up like everybody else did. Jeez, I saw that happening so much.
Oh my gosh. Well, funny story. We had a client, and I won't say who, but we had a client. We hadn't had a sale probably in about 3 weeks. I mean, literally it turned off. And we had a $1.6 million PO in our email. Now, if you're a CEO and you're trying to hold on to 83 people and the world is crashing around you and you've got a $1.6 million PO in your email, you take it. Our CEOs, this is the integrity of this. And I get a knot in my throat talking about it because these are the people I work for.
Yep.
They had a 4% belief that those were not certifiably real N95s that were actually going to protect surgeons, doctors, and patients the way they needed to. They walked away. They sent the PO back. and they walked away from that. And there was major concern at that point, and the folks that we were dealing with were very angry, fired off several emails. In the long run, the folks that ended up selling to that particular hospital ended up getting sued and ran away with $3 million or something like that, and are probably still on the run. We walked away from it, and because of that, we were able to keep our pride, impress the brands that we interact with. And all of a sudden, it was like a light shined on us from whatever universal power or whatever being you believe in, shined on us like, you're great people. And all of a sudden, we discovered graduation kits. So all these universities had to do virtual graduations. We started doing virtual graduation kits where we would design the box. We would send it to 6,000 students in 9 different countries direct to doorstep. We did all the kitting in here. So we sourced every product, we decorated, we packed the boxes, we shipped it direct, and started doing virtual graduations. We landed one. We then presented to another university that said, oh my gosh, you could solve that problem. And it literally turned into 50, 60, 70 and saved our company, and then took our company to another level. We went from selling, $1,000 orders to $150,000 orders. So that's what's happening here.
We all have the same face right now. We're shocked.
Yeah, this is my COVID shirt day 1. This is my COVID shirt day 2. Like quarantine. This is my quarantine shirt. I'm sure those ideas were. That's like a Walmart idea, though, right? That's.
Well, we were doing that. We were doing it on the corporate side.
We have to stay alive.
On the corporate side, we were starting to think about, okay, we came up with 10 marketing strategies in 5 days. And some of the marketing strategies in that one was the grad pack. That's what we came up with, the grad pack. Then we did a corporate kit, which was at home office. So how do you operate virtually and still get your brand message across? How do you make employees still feel that the company supports them, is aware of what they're going through, and that you still have a culture? And the culture has to be beyond a Zoom meeting. You have to have engagement. There has to be a gamifying situation. There has to be hashtags and logos and all these things to be able to represent the brand. Because, typically you bring somebody into the office, you take them on a tour, there's spatial branding, there's signage, there's logos everywhere, and it's subliminal, right? When you're on a Zoom call, in many cases, it's just eye-to-eye contact, and people aren't necessarily getting that subliminal message, that impression, that brand impression. So we started figuring out, okay, how do we get direct-to-doorstep kits to employees and staff? So when people were hiring, send them a kit before they start day 1. They're not going to come in for an orientation where they walk around. You better give them an orientation before they start on a virtual training. So we started to really dig into that. So then we had virtual kits going for graduations. Now admissions kicks in, right? All the students go home, admissions kicks in, and they're going, now we have to keep the university going, but we've got folks that are going to be virtual. Some are going to be on campus. We still have to give them the same feeling. They're spending $40,000 a year to go to school here. Mom and dad are taking out loans to send them to school. The students taking out loans. You can't just have them do a virtual class. You got to give them the experience. So we started working with them on how can you do an admissions kit where you send them all of the swag and the T-shirts and the promotional items to make them feel like a student on campus until they can come back to campus. And it's exploded from there.
You
just
mentioned
gave me an idea. Oh, go ahead, Casey.
I was just going to circle back to culture. So obviously you focused on corporations that you work with and their culture. What did you guys do at Club Colors to make sure that culture wasn't just like down the tubes?
Okay, so I'm going to send you guys
very scary time.
I'm going to send you guys this afterwards. But remember Tiger King came out?
Who could forget?
Okay, so Tiger King came out, and we were all we were all at home and bored to death, didn't know what we were going to do. So what do? We turned to Netflix, right? Because you can only have so many conversations with people. You start to get itchy and whatever. So you look for things to just destroy your brain, like Tiger King. So we have a gong process here, right? So I'm a big believer in sharing wins and celebrating wins, big and small. So I put gongs in when I started as a sales manager 4 years ago. And when we make a sale over X amount of money, dollar amount. You get up and hit the gong and you tell the story so it inspires someone else to do it, right? So all of a sudden, we've sent home this whole sales staff, and I will not stay home. So I'm driving in, and I'm looking at the log of who made sales at that amount, and I'm going up to the gong, and I'm doing videos. So after about day 2, you could only do so many videos where it's like, hey, this one's for you, Steve. Congratulations. I'm here in the office. I'm hitting the gong for you. Remember our culture, right? You can only do so many of those. So I started doing impressions. So one of the impressions that I started to do was Tiger King. So you could see the progression. I dressed up. I put like the blonde wig on like day 3. By day 7, we did a full YouTube video of his song, I Saw Tiger, which I will send you the YouTube video. And we started sending that out to our employees. Like, hey, I know your heart hurts. I know you can't. I know you can't deal with this, but look, it's lighthearted. We're good. We're fine. So I would go in and I would do tours. Hey, remember your desk? Hey, check out your desk. You're going to be sitting here in no time. And then I would send them that video. And then I started doing Randy Macho Man Savage. Oh yeah. Ooh. Right. So I started doing that. And we just kind of made a game out of it. And then about a couple weeks later, I came up with this logo, which is on my microphone. I don't know if you could see it, but the symbol is it's a tree with leaves, and then below is roots. And the slogan I came up with was opportunity grows from the roots of adversity. What I wanted to get across to everybody is while this felt so painful, what was happening was we were starting to become recognized for our ability to solve problems, not just sell promo. That we had the ability to adjust, that we had agility. And that we could make people feel something in their organization that they were lacking if we made it feel like something in ours. So we turned this into a logo. We put a big spatial branding on one of our walls, and we kind of rallied around that. We made T-shirts for all the employees, and that became our rally cry. That as bad as it might feel, opportunity is coming out of this. That was how we stimulated the culture. Kind of goofy. It got really goofy until it got serious, and then everyone kind of dug in.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I had probably the most unique experience post-COVID on a Zoom ever. There was a guy who we all saw the rapper, right? We all know Ding the Rapper. Well, I hop on a Zoom with him, and this guy raps, and he makes like rap songs that you can order up. And I could say, hey, send John Morris a rap song about him. Here's $500, make it awesome. He'll do a video and it's great. And he said, I hopped on the Zoom meeting. He's like in his bedroom partying. He's like, what's up, man? Spinning music. I'm like, I know this song. He's like, I researched you and found out your favorite music and I'm DJing to this Zoom call. And I was like, and they turned it down and he had like little sound effects, like he would say something and go like, I'd say something and go, wah, wah. And he had all the things of the Zoom and it transformed the entire experience to like you had to pay attention.
Yes.
And I thought, what if, we've gotten away from radio stations, right? We all have Slack, we all have this and that, we all on Zoom all day. They're boring. This isn't boring, but they are boring in and of themselves. You get done, you rub your eyes, you go, I got to go cook dinner. What's for dinner? What is it? Oh my God, it's dark again. I've been on Zoom calls for 12 hours straight, yet again. And I thought, companies should reinvest in their own radio station where they can, like, employee celebrations are like the old DJ, like John Morris sitting there saying like Casey Carnivale turns way too old today. Like whatever you do with it, like you can have contests, you can have the virtual gong, like gong. You can feature your customers, you can come in and out of Zoom meetings. I'm like, I guess I missed the boat on that one because someone had thought of that and said it won't work. I'm sure
every great idea people say won't work. Right? Everyone always says that. Everyone always says that it won't work. It won't work for them. It doesn't mean that it won't work for us. It won't work for you, right? It won't work for them because they don't believe it. But if you believe it, you can make it happen. We went out 4 years ago and bought a championship belt. My sales staff is 65% women. But when you get on an airplane and fly to Minneapolis and ring their doorbell with your phone and the belt for them, they don't care about the belt. They care about the fact that they got that thing. Literally, I hopped on a plane at 6 a.m. from O'Hare, flew to Minneapolis, drove out an hour from the airport with this belt in the rent-a-car, ring the doorbell. Our top rep came out for that month, I said, here's your belt. I got to get on a plane and get back to Chicago. What do you got to say to the team? And the whole team was on there on like a Teams call. And she's like, oh my gosh, well, how did you win the belt? How did you win the belt? She gave a little speech, gave her a hug, got back in the car, drove back, hopped on a plane and flew back. So, gamify it, man. That's how you build culture. And there's all these different ways to do it that beyond giving somebody a coffee mug, it's not the mug, it's the experience. How do you deliver the message? How do you make somebody feel something where they go, I'm going to run through walls for that person? And then all of a sudden, guess what? That coffee mug that somebody looks at in procurement and goes, why in the hell do we buy $4,000 worth of coffee mugs? You didn't. You got $25,000 return out of it because somebody was inspired and felt something, not because of the mug, but the way it was delivered, the message, the feeling. And that's so when what we do here is all proof of concept. We do the craziest, goofiest stuff for culture. And when it works, then we call up our clients and go, here's what we just did. And they go, well, that's not our culture. And we go, okay, great. Here, let's talk about how we can modify it so it is your culture. And then that's how it comes to fruition.
Yeah. Steve, I don't think it costs much to buy like an AM radio station. I'm still stuck on this idea of like why I cannot listen to this in the background. I can just like give shout outs to people. I'm like, this might be my dream come true. Running a radio. I've already taken this on as my job, obviously. I'm like, this is my dreams coming true.
You listen to Gary Vee. He talks about that every company should become a media company. And that's what you guys are doing at Tidal too, with your content creation and the amount of personal branding that you're doing in order to represent the overall corporate brand. And that is much better than pounding the phone 1,000 times, and getting lucky. If you do the social media part first and you create all the brilliant content, you create attention. Now you only have to make 200 calls, and those 200 calls are going to have a 50% conversion rate that leads to a 20%, higher sales rate or whatever it might be. So all you're doing, you're taking the same system, but you're just warming it up and supercharging it.
Yeah. We front-loaded content. I mean, most people who would listen to this have heard this price. So I'll keep it brief. We just didn't know what we were doing. Listen to some people, and I said, great, our budget matches that, which is do it yourself. Do a lot of it and do it over and over again. And I can rest assure you, I'm confident now after a year of really being in business that had we not done that, we'd be out of business a long time ago. Because cold calling your way into cold calling for a living, you'd think would be the way you do it. But Casey is our first. And so, Casey, when you talk about cold versus warm, right? We know what warm feels like, call it year one. What does it feel like to go outbound cold when nobody really knows who the hell we are?
It can be a struggle, right? Trying to, because the first question is, well, how are you different than any other, outbound company? And they're like, well, you have 2 seconds to tell me how. And it's like, well, I don't have, it's too much. We're so different. I need more time. So it's rough, but it's way nicer when somebody comes in via LinkedIn to be like, hey, like we've seen this, and this. Let's
trust is established. Now, if you sent them out a T-shirt from Club Colors with their favorite band on it and did research and then fired an email saying, did you get the shirt? I bet it would work pretty well.
Or
I'd be rolling
or a design logo where you guys are the band. So it's your logo, right? But
let me tell you, I just said
you
said
fantastic
my face.
characters as the band, man. That's how you do it.
Did I not just say it? I was like, we can just send a picture of our faces on the T-shirt.
There you go.
Do you want to join our band and put an empty spot there?
Yeah.
And we're looking for a
Do you want to be the
singer,
headliner? Yeah.
Hologram. Their face appears on it when they figure it out.
There you go. They hit a QR code. It goes to their pictures. They can select what picture they want.
Boom. $60 million Super Bowl commercial.
Oh my gosh, this is money.
What is the most crazy idea you've seen someone pull off where they called you and said, here's what we want to do, and you went, oh my God, that's crazier than something we would ever think of?
Oh gosh.
One of your customers.
One of the coolest, I'll tell you one of the coolest ones that we did was we did these football helmet chairs for Corona. So
so it's a football helmet chair?
Yeah. So like the chair is picture a football helmet and you'd be like sitting. So picture the football helmet sitting upright, right? And then the part with the face mask is like almost like a leg rest kind of a thing. Yeah. And you got the seat. So you like picked up the top of the helmet and that was the back of the seat. So you like sat it and it had Corona's logo on it. Pretty cool.
I love this.
I've never sat in one of those. That sounds really, really wild, man. Well, what is this is going to be a little bit of a pitch because I when I said I didn't think apparel, I know apparel's a thing, but honestly, it's one of those things where when I've got software to buy and call it employees want better pay and this and that, the last thing I thought of was, oh yeah, we need apparel. And everybody in our company said, Steve, when are we get the gear? And I'm like, well, our attrition rate's 20%. We can put it off a little bit longer. And a month later, Steve, where's the gear? We're getting the quote on the gear. Trust me. Where's my shirts? I want to select it. I'll pay for it. And then someone in our company just started making like homemade gear because they're like, well, people want it so bad. I'm like, okay, guys, I get it. Like you really, really want the shirts, which is flattering. I suppose that means we need to order them. But that's how my brain thought. It does not mean it's right, by the way. But
you're not alone in that thinking.
So walk us through that, because I know in the software space, we all want modern, new, and we're like, well, who wants a t-shirt or a vest or a jacket, right? We think you want a new MacBook.
Absolutely. The beauty of it is the natural thought for most people when they think swag is pen, coffee mug, t-shirt. It's just natural. I mean, I don't blame you. I thought that before I came here. I came from investment banking. You want to talk about my mind being blown when I came in here. I was a stiff man in a suit. Very nice tie, though. But when I came here, I was like, wait, we do what? And so I think we're up to like 9 million SKUs of things that we can source. I mean, just unreal. So it's not necessarily the fact that I think that when people put a focus on what the traditional thought of what swag or promo is, it naturally can be considered trinkets and trash. And from a CEO perspective, you think, why in the world would I spend $5,000 on something like that when I give 2 pay raises of $2,500 to 2 key employees and drive their spirit, right? Why in the world would I buy that and have employees eventually throw it away? So we fully get that. And what that typically means is that you're dealing with somebody who is probably more focused on something that is less commodity and more focused on a premium solution that actually gets the reaction that it deserves. So we always ask clients this: what is the value of your spend if everyone goes to the water cooler and talks about how crappy what you gave them was? We'd prefer you just not to buy anything. We'd prefer to walk away from that. Moreover, what's the value of giving everybody something if everybody isn't fully bought into the brand? You've got some people at your organization that just have a job. Let's face it. You got some folks that are wondering what the next step is. You got other folks like these fine people on this podcast with us right now that are fully bought into the brand, that are brand champions. So when I talk to my clients, I talk about let's look at your spend and let's minimize the amount of people. Let's take the same budget, minimize the amount of people that get it, enhance the premium of the product you're selecting, and reward it to the brand champions who carry the torch for the organization. And what you'll watch is people say, well, how come they got that? How did they do that? And then that gives you the ability to say, well, this was an incentive. It was a reward for performance, for execution, for being a culture crusader, for leading from the front, for being kind, for treating clients a certain way, for creating amazing content that pushes out our brand. So I think that's what we want people to understand is buying promotional products for the sake of it is a waste of your money. It's a waste of your time. It's a waste of your spend. Put it somewhere else. But if you have intention, you're trying to achieve something, you're trying to piggyback an initiative, you're trying to roll out a new product, you're trying to reward behaviors with clients, you're trying to reward behaviors with brand champions within your organization, use it for that, because the words and the money make a statement. But the memory comes from every time they use that thing and they know that that's the reason they got it. Every time they put on that quarter zip, they remember it's because they achieved. And that helps to fuel and to solidify the positive behaviors that you're looking for out of your staff as a CEO. And if you do it with clients, it's even better too. Hey, look, refer me to somebody.
Yeah, so I've been previously working for the Air Force for the last 5 to 7 years, and something I didn't know going into it is the coining. So are you familiar with coining? And it's literally leadership will have these coins, and if you do something awesome, if you're recognized for X, Y, and Z, or you led something, you're getting recognized, and they come up, they'll talk to you, and they shake your hand, and you shake theirs, and you get a coin in it. I'm telling you, this thing's maybe worth $1. Like and you can brand them to whoever you are, if you're the wing commander and everything. But when I tell you, you hold, there is nothing better than receiving that coin, and then you line them up on your desk, and everybody has them all displayed of there's a story that goes with it. So you would be like, oh, well, I got coined by General Miller whenever I was doing this, and you would tell your story with it. And it's something that is a heritage thing for them, but it's truly something everybody buys into and truly boosts morale. And it's a conversation starter as well.
And it's a culture builder
for a lot of people.
Right? It's a culture builder. So one of the things that we did here, we broke off back in November. We went up to Wisconsin for a couple days, and we sat down as an executive team, and we determined collectively what we felt like our core values as an organization were. And we identified 6 core values. Let's see if I can remember all 6. Shame on me if I can't. Do the right thing.
I have pulled up so I can remind you.
Do the right thing even when it hurts. Success is our only agenda. Level up. Be free to imagine more. We got your back. Is that all of them? Oh, and winning is fun.
Nope. Winning is fun, yeah.
Yep.
I was about to say that was a good one.
So those are our core values. So what we're doing now is we are going to, in order to get that into the memory of our team, we're going to create, whether it be coins or patches. So when folks achieve that on a monthly basis and it's recognized by their manager, their team, or a peer, they'll be awarded or recognized with that patch. Once you have achieved all 6 of those patches, then we'll get a cool bomber jacket or something like that. We'll sew them all on there. And now you're a brand champion, right?
It's like Boy Scouts.
There you go.
Like it.
But
something. But it motivates you. I mean, it seems silly, but man, there is no better feeling than getting coined by the wing commander. I remember the first time I just was like, me? What is happening? And it was such a cool feeling, and so awesome to be recognized and to continue to tell those stories later on when people would come and visit you in your office. You're like, yeah, let me tell you about this one, or let me tell you about that. And it definitely just keeps the conversation going of encouraging others to get there. So I think that's
Brittany,
awesome.
First off, congratulations on getting that. I mean, that's pretty awesome that you had to do what you had to do to get those awards. But think about that. It's from the standpoint of an executive team. Now I don't have to do the messaging. Now I've got Brittany messaging for me. So somebody's coming into Brittany's office who's a peer or somebody that wants to be like Brittany, and Brittany now is delivering the message on behalf of the brand, the executive team, the leadership, and is now a steward of the brand message, right? And so that's kind of the momentum that it creates.
It's a big deal. Casey's branding about Cleveland behind her. It's all over. See, she's branding her living room.
Makes me nervous.
Yeah.
She wants.
Makes you nervous.
I'm going to tell you. This is Casey's. She was at a small desk before.
Oh.
And it was too small, and I was like,
I just told him this story.
Brittany and Kate, well, I got to tell everybody else. This is, she's like, I called them. I said, hey, you guys want to be on the podcast? They're like, and I'm like, great. We need 2 more people.
You're on.
It's going to be awesome. We shipped you out Yeti mics. We gave you all the goodness, and they showed up. And she said she waited, of course. She's talking to me that day. She's like, I still have to unpack this and hook it up. I said, are you going to do it before the podcast starts? Because that's really the only thing that matters. She's like, I think so. And I said, when I need to do something at home, it comes across to my wife. It says, hey, Steve, what we need to do is we need to take the cardboard boxes out. So I was like, Casey, we
have the same marriage contract.
We need to unpack the mic and set it up. And then it was great because these 2 are, this is our 3rd episode now. And I felt like it was kind of like dipping their toes in the water at first. And now I just believe that you should have different personality types to mix it up. They don't all have to be dynamic, outspoken individuals. Thank God. Otherwise it would feel like the Joe Rogan Experience on steroids and other psychedelic drugs that Joe Rogan would endorse. But it should be pleasant to listen to, where we feel like everybody should walk out of this feeling like if they make it to the end, which we know most people on podcasts don't, because they're going to get those pieces of micro content, they should learn something and be like, hey, I guess I haven't thought about apparel in a long time. Or you know what? I guess I didn't think about branding in that same way for my company, because all of us want to sell. We want to sell more. We're in the business of talking to people about more revenue. Casey, Brittany, have we ever talked to anybody who wants to sell less?
No.
Okay. I was like, I'm pretty sure one person said that, and we're like, not buying it. But they want to push harder, and they want to pull different levers, and it's, do more and more and more as I think about things. And this is our own business too, is we are in the business of an old and antiquated omni-channel outreach of phone, email, now it's LinkedIn, now it's text messages. But this call center vibe has been around for 40 years? So you call at home, your mom would answer and go, not interested.
That's how I grew up, baby.
Yeah. So if you think about it like this, how would you retool? And I'm not saying I'm just in your brain. If you said, you know what, we're not using the phone, we're not using the email, we're not doing any of this. What are 4 things you would choose to use to leverage your company's brand to get new customers? One of them can't be clothes and apparel, by the way, since that's something you're already doing today. Well, so this is a little bit of a pop quiz.
Clothes and apparel will not get new customers. I will assure you that, for sure. But to answer your question, number 1, create video content. People like to know who is steering the ship. And I don't care how great your email is. I can't use enough emojis to express my body language and my desire and my passion, right? But I can do that on video, man. By the way, I can see that little line right there, that little scowl. That shows you a little intensity, right? Maybe I should get some Botox. I don't know, but
I was gonna say my Botox is stopping me from that, so I apologize.
Yeah,
it's there. I promise.
That's fine. Point being is facial expressions.
They're doing a good job, though.
Appreciate it. Facial expressions and tonality come across in video, and that transfer of energy. Steve, you've been in the sales game a long time. Sales is still a transfer of energy. I mean, you could be the smartest person in the world with the greatest mousetrap, but I still have to entertain you a little bit and keep you on, keep you moving, keep you going, keep you connected and listening until I can get to that point of fact finding and digging and information to set the tone and make the opportunity happen. So that'd be the first thing. The second thing would be, creating a cadence to how you post. So I see far too many people that post, and I love how you do it, Steve, because sometimes it's, information based where you're talking about what Tidal does. Sometimes you're talking about your wife and your life. Sometimes you're just super raw and authentic, and you're just like, I'm off, man. I'm having a bad day. I'm struggling. I'm battling, but I'm going to stay the course, right? And it's inspiring. And I think that people buy from people more than anything else. Every single business is a people business. So I would love for more organizations to have a corporate brand and a set of guidelines and to influence their people to become personal brands within the corporate brand. Set a boundary, set balance, but inspire them to inspire others. And that is the best recruiting, the best retention, and the best lead generation that you could provide, and reward them for that. Next would be showcasing and promoting clients and prospective clients with intention to promote them, not necessarily intention to close them, right? So much like this, how do you do that? A podcast. Start a podcast as an organization, for crimini's sake. Have a podcast. Why? Mm-hmm. Steve and I may never do business together. I hope that we do. I pray that we do. I really hope we do, but we may never do business together. But if Steve is meeting with somebody at a conference and the guy goes, look at this pullover I have. It's all frayed. It's awful. Oh, have you heard of John Morris from Club Colors? Now all of a sudden I got Steve doing that. I might go out tonight and have a cocktail. Somebody who is a director of sales says, I can't get my salespeople to tip a spear like they're supposed to. They're just not active, and I don't know what to do. Oh, really? Have you heard of the fine folks at Tidal? Right? So by having something like this where we promote each other's personal brand, we create influencers within our following, within our reach. And I think that would be the next. Is that 3? 4. What would 4?
One more.
4.
Let's get creative with this one. You're making me rethink our strategy, which is good. I mean, it'd be nice to test this different approach on a client to say, are you up for something different? Because I've seen things work on me where a cold call in that case wouldn't have worked. And we do this for a living.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have answered it, right? In meetings all day, voicemail's full, shoot, missed a call, don't know who it was. In that essence, the cold call never had a chance. And I probably think it's a car warranty anyway. So I'm thinking, like, I'm trying to really get this free information from you so we can just steal it all and make it effective. And yes, we do want to be a customer and we want you to be our customers. But I think this will get ideas flowing from people. And guys, listeners out there, if you hear and you're like, you're just banging your dashboard going, what about this? Email us, LinkedIn, whatever. You know where to find us. We'll come in and fill number 4 later. I am a firm believer that, who does our podcast is Reveal. It's Cap and Lauren and the crew down in Omaha. Our customer kicked off today. 2 appointments first day booked. Heard about us on Cap's podcast. Awesome. We had limited, we never tried. We just kind of did it. I was on Cap's podcast as a guest, right? We didn't have a big reach with ours. They heard it on Cap's. So now we can attribute at a minimum with little effort, $60K in top line revenue to someone who happened to listen to a 30-second content clip, not the whole podcast. Me doing a cold call with Cap on a podcast. They said, that guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. They called us. Boom, we're off and running. Took about a month to really build the additional trust, but that layer of trust here, they saw you, they heard you, you're with someone who's established. To put yourself out there like that, you probably are a person of your word if you're willing to be in public. And I don't know about you, John, but I think this idea of building in public is really attractive for a lot of reasons. Number one, when you build in public, you show people you're okay with messing up.
Yes.
As long as you show them when you do, and your employees look at you like you're kind of crazy. Like, why do you tell them everything, Steve? Just keep the secret. I'm like, guys, there are no secrets in what we do. FYI, it is.
You're going to be discovered or found out.
And if so, great. We should be ahead of that next thing by then anyway, so that's okay. I believe in making the entire industry better by challenging the status quo to think differently. Mm-hmm. And I think that when you do that, you're what they call now a thought leader, right? You're leading thought on something new, which is why I wanted to peg that question, because I feel like people have an intrinsic attraction to people who are thought leaders because they're giving them ideas that they didn't have before, and that's attractive. Mm-hmm. Not like in a physical, like I love you kind of way, but like I'd like to learn more about you because you're giving me ideas just hearing your voice on a podcast. I can't imagine, and not to mention, John, you get an hour. When else are you getting an hour meeting with that person?
Absolutely, 100%.
To learn about them, their business, their views. And I think that the key is this, because this is what we practice. Like, we're not going to follow up with our podcast guests and say, hey, thanks for hopping on the show, John. We'd like to meet next week for 40 minutes to tell you more about Tidal. Like that,
no.
To me, it's happened to me twice. It's happened to me.
Shame.
Or you're a podcast guest and they just never, like the episode happens and you 2 months later, you're like, hey, did you guys, like, oh, yeah, shoot, didn't work. Sorry, forgot to tell you. Like, we forgot to hit record that day. You're like, okay. It's an hour of my time, and you could have just told me. But there's some really, with anything comes amateur hour, right? And now podcasts can be great, and everybody goes, I can do it myself. Well, if you're going to use it, then at least respect people's time with it, right?
Yes. And I would also strongly recommend not doing a podcast yourself, maybe the first few, but there's experts in everything. And those experts are experts for a reason. Steve and his crew, they're experts at what they do. I like to think that I'm surrounded by experts. I'm just trying to be as good as them as it relates to branding. But Cap is an expert at putting together podcasts and how to use them the right way so that it does what it's supposed to do, which is to create brand awareness, which is to attract opportunity, which is to create lead generation, and which is to promote a multitude of different services and products and opportunity that exists out there. And if it's not done right, it's counterproductive, and you end up eventually getting frustrated because you're not getting the result, and you probably upset some guests. So do it the right way. There's one way to do things. Oh man, my father's talking to me right now. There's only one way to do things, the right way, right? And sometimes the right way it doesn't exist within your 4 walls. You need somebody to help you out.
We have about 5 minutes left, so Brittany and Casey, I'm gonna shut up and put duct tape over my mouth for a second while we get ready to ask a few hard-hitting questions here at the end. What do you guys got for John that you've always wanted to ask, at least for the last 52 minutes here? Let's get those out on the table. Shock our listeners a little bit.
I want to know how I can get on the gong. I want a gong shout out. I want a gong bang.
Oh, absolutely.
What I got to do to do that?
Well, there's a couple ways. First off, we could do a virtual gong if you'd like, where I'll record that in. I don't think that that's quite as appealing. But if you ever come to our office in Schaumburg, Illinois, you will be treated like you are the greatest human being that ever walks through the doors, because that's our expectation and that's our standard. When somebody comes through our door, they are to be made to feel like the green carpet has been rolled out for them. And we do something called a guest gong. So literally, if we take you on a tour and then we bring you to the sales department, I say, everyone, Brittany's here from Tidal, and everyone will go, guest gong! And then we bring you up and we hand it to you, and we have you hit the gong, and we take a video, and then we post it. And it is absolutely the goofiest, silliest thing. But guess what? It's our goofy, silly thing at Club Colors, and it's our brand, and we own it. And you would be amazed by 65-year-old women that are executives of major corporations that come in and hit the darn gong, and they're giddy about it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I was talking about it earlier today. I was like, I got to figure out how I can get there. I need to be on the guest gong. I need to do this thing.
Even better, we had
I got goals.
We had David Atkins on our podcast, who's in charge of branding and licensing at George Mason University. And he loved the gong so much that we had a custom gong made with his logo on it, and we sent it to him. So perhaps there's a gong coming your way after this.
Oh my God.
Dreams
Every call that I'm on with Brittany, she's going to be like, I finished a smart card today. Gong. She's just going to gong for herself all day long.
Yeah.
We'll get addresses.
I like it.
John, what is the best piece of advice that you have received in your life?
Oh, wow. Oh, gosh.
She's going to hit you real deep in the belly there. Jeez,
I had posted
Casey.
the other day, the 18th of February was the 4-year anniversary of my father's passing. And this, a powerful human being, just powerful. He was the executive vice president of sales for Kraft Foods. He worked for Kraft for 35 years. He retired a top 10 position at Kraft Foods. And he managed his family like a corporation. So I'm not sure I was his son. I was an employee, but he was a great CEO of the family, let's say. Actually, that was my mom. But his favorite saying was actually a quote from Ben Hogan. And Ben Hogan had won the U.S. Open, and one of the reporters asked him after the U.S. Open, said, Ben, what was the key to your success? And he said, well, let me tell you the key to golf. It's not how good your good shots are. It's how good your bad shots are. So my dad had taken that quote and he turned it into kind of a life principle. And he would tell me, it's not how good your bad days are, or it's not how good your good days are. It's how good you make your bad days. He would tell me, it's not how good you are on your best day at work. It's how good are you on your worst day at work. It's not how good you are when, your curveball is snapping off and nobody can hit it. It's how good are you when you don't have your stuff. And so that's been probably the thing that I go to. I have mornings I wake up and I'm not so sure I want to get out of bed. And that crosses my mind. How good are you going to be on your worst day? So be your best even on the days where you don't feel like you can.
I love that.
I felt it's interesting. Health is something we take for granted, right? I think when you're healthy, you go, man. When you're sick, I was the guy sick the last 4 days, or getting up in the hospital. I remember thinking to myself, I just hope I remember when I'm healthy that I don't feel like this every day.
Yeah.
Because when you're sick, you can't do much, you're kind of sitting there. But I've just got a pretty bad cold. Like, that's it. I've had 10, 20 of them in my life. And every time I'm like, nobody knows how hard this is. I got to pull my head out of my ass. I'm like, man, I get really negative when I'm sick on myself because I feel like my brain's a hamster wheel. And when it doesn't work, it feels stuck, like it's going, I can't relax. I can't let go when I'm sick. I'm like, how quick until I'm unsick? I got to get unsick so I can go do this thing. And then, someone in my family, not immediate, but extended family passes away. And I go, oh my God, don't ever take your health for granted. The next day, get back to work and I go, well, here we go. Boom, back at it. I feel like the same story comes from most everybody when they go. The same story you hear from everybody when they're aging, they're getting older. Like, my mom is now at that age where, like, she knows it's getting to last 10, 20 years of her life. asking a lot of questions about when we're going to go to church. Like, if all the right things, right, ask me to come over every Sunday. And I kind of get sad because I'm like, this is the only time I'll think about that is when I'm over at her house. Cause I'm like, questions about the will. Do you know the passcode on the safe? And she's told me like 30 times and I never write it down. I'm like, you know what, this time, Mom, I'm going to write it down because I feel like it's important to you. She goes, well, it's important to me because you're the only one who has it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, when you're 40 and you're thriving, or what they say, 40s for earning, right? And what 30s for what? Learning, 40s for earning, 50s, like, forget about it. Like, no one cares about you
50s
anyways.
for golf.
And work. Yeah, golf. Yeah. At 50, applying for new jobs in sales usually doesn't work very well. They're like, okay,
what
you're
happened?
in your 50s. You should
what happened the last 30
Yeah,
years? You just couldn't figure it out? What happened?
But it reminds me that life is hard. Yes, we all have to go to work. We all have, we all have obligations that we have to tend to. I feel that work now for the first time in 22 years, and you get when you own something, you get to design. I guess it's the benefit with the risk is like you get to finally see what it's like, what's unpacked. I love that I get to work with people that, for the most part, I get to go, this is exactly who I'd choose to work with, doing exactly what I would do if I could choose it myself. Oh, wait, I did. Anybody else can do the same thing. And I feel like unless we all get busy living, like the only other thing is to look back and go, what happened?
Yeah.
Why didn't I do that thing? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I take a trip overseas with my wife and that's all she wanted to do? Instead, I had to work. And when it gets taken away from you, now you go, oh, gosh, I guess I can't do that now. It's over. You can't do it. You physically can't. Once you're sick and in a hospital and you're dying, you can't say, you know what, screw it. Let's go to Vietnam and party. Like,
not as well as you would have. Not as well as you would have.
Yeah, I mean, take that IV bag and put some tequila in it. I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I can't do that. But everybody else around me can get hammered on it. I don't care. But I'm like, my new motto is have some fun with the company because, God, it's stressful enough.
Yeah.
Balancing books, talking about money, winning deals, losing deals. You go home, you feel defeated. The kids look at you like, oh, you're home at 7:30 again. I'm like, I bet you guys just want a dad, don't you? You don't want to hear about any of my war stories from work. They don't care. As a matter of fact, I know they do not care at all.
And you know what? That's beautiful, actually, because they care about the man's that's looking back at them. And that's their only care. They don't care if you are a CEO of a rapidly growing organization that's going to dominate the world, which I believe is the case. What they care about is the dude that's staring them back and whether or not you're going to make them mac and cheese and if you're going to do a crossword puzzle with them or if you're going to throw the ball with them. And to your point, those are the moments you cherish because that's their fuel. And then that's the fuel to allow you to go be the amazing CEO that you are, right? So everybody's got to fill up each other's tanks, right? Everyone's got to fill up the other person's tank. And then when our tanks are all full, we crush. We do amazing things. We crush goals and lift souls. That's the key.
Yeah. I had a moment the other night. My 3-year-old son looked at me and I was doing this thing where, Casey was probably texting me about a deal because I texted her and my son looks at me and goes, Dad, put the phone down. Look at me. And I was just like,
Theo.
just I was just like, take my money. I was just like, he's 3. And he was just like, he's already seen it enough to be like, Dad, I couldn't even say any words when I was 3, let alone like, put the phone down, Dad. And I was like, it's a moment like that, whether it's your kid or your significant other or whoever it is, it's like, it brings you back in. But it like you said, I believe humans were put here to help each other because when your cup is full, mine is empty. Mm-hmm. And I might need a little bit of yours, so I'm going to need your help to get through this because surviving alone is not fun.
Yeah, I think we're put here to help each other because we truly can't help ourselves.
Yeah, I have a great little book for my little girl. It's called The Invisible Bucket, and it explains all of this. Everybody's got their invisible bucket over their head, and the little boy, like Jimmy, his little bucket gets tipped over because he was having a rough morning, and Mom got mad about spilling cereal. And then he went to school, and, a couple other people were having a hard time, and his little bucket kept getting tipped over, and then he did something good in school, and they were talking about how well he did, and his teacher was praising him, and his bucket started to fill up a little bit more. And so it kind of goes through the series of filling each other's bucket up and how important that is, and that some days you might wake up and yours is empty, and I'm like, Steve, you look like you're having a bad day. Mm-hmm. I have not heard from you in 2 days. I'm sending you a Starbucks gift card on a Wednesday. I hope you enjoy. Go have a great day.
That's
and
awesome.
So it's important.
True story.
So.
That's beautiful. And, I think that our cultures, just from having this chance to speak with you and see how you guys interact, our cultures would blend very well in that our CEOs, we know that they're our CEO and we know where the line is and we understand chain of command and we know that they got final call and whatever that call is, you run full steam and you go, right? And then we'll deal with whatever happens at the end of it. And if they made a wrong decision, they'll be the first one to go, that was the wrong one, but here's the new one. Then you run full speed on that one. But they also are human beings. And they certainly are willing to take a compliment as much as they're willing to give one. And I don't see a whole lot of CEOs that are willing to take one because often they think they're too high and mighty to even take a compliment from somebody below them. So giving a compliment when you're in a position of power is cool, but that's part of what you're supposed to do. Taking a compliment when you're in a position of power is that's a different animal. That's a cool thing because that means that you're validating that person's opinion of you matters and not brushing it off. So I see that in you guys. I see how you interact. You got a good vibe. Good vibe.
What do I say? I love a vibe.
You do love a strong vibe. Well, I was telling him about Michael Booth, the great storyteller earlier. So I had them.
Bomb.
I had them kind of going on a vibe, if you will. He's just looking. Michael Booth, by the way, when I went to your podcast and saw him, I was like, oh my God, it's a small world. That's my old boss. And every time I say, hey, that's the guy who changed my life, I'm like, there he is. He told all those war stories of being in the field and people. And I'm like, yes, this guy. I've never been a greater motivator in my life ever than Michael Booth out of Chicago.
He is off the hook. And I got to tell you, like I met his VP at a networking event at Medina, right? And we're hitting indoor golf balls and we get to talking. Next thing you know, I find out that this guy knows my brother-in-law. And then we get to talking about what Club Colors does and what Hub International does. Next thing you know, they're in presenting to Club Colors. And we're presenting to Hub. Now we got this partnership going. It's all good. Yeah. So he goes, I'm going to introduce you to Michael Booth. I go, well, tell me about Michael. He goes, just don't worry. This is the greatest guy. So I call him up. First thing he says, he goes, you Jason's guy? I go, yeah, I'm Jason's guy. He goes, Jason loves you. I love you. What are we doing? I'm like, yeah. Whoa, I met my match of energy. Yes. This is amazing. Let's go. It was so good. And then, you realize he's a way more than energy. This guy's brilliant. I mean, he knows how to break it down. He's got the science. And every time I talk to him, I'm like, yeah, let's run through walls together. It's pretty cool.
Yep. That guy can do it. I still tell you, he said, I'm so proud of you. He goes, I didn't talk to you in 18 years. And here you show up on LinkedIn. He goes, apparently you've been doing fine. I'm like, no, that was just the last 2 years. I said the other 18 were a train wreck, but
listen
thank
to
you
the first two podcasts. Listen to the first two podcasts. Go back and listen to Steve's story. And that's, that's part of it too, Steve, is like your story is if that doesn't resonate with a human being, I don't know what does, because it's not like you woke up, somebody put a gold spoon in your mouth, right? This has been heartache and pain and adversity to get to this point. And the people like you that draw a line in the sand and say enough and get it under control and turn it. Those are the people that inspire. Those are the people you want to follow. So stamp of approval from this podcast watcher. Mm-hmm. I was moved last night. I went to bed at 1 a.m. after I listened to about 4 of your podcasts.
Oh man, that's awesome. Ratings increase and we're bonding.
Downloaded and stars, baby.
Yeah, rest in peace to our dads, man. They're you never know until they're gone how much they meant to you. Parents in general, I mean, let's just give it up. We wouldn't be here without them, and they'd be proud of you for being on the show talking about people and inspiring. Your dad would. So
cheers.
Rest in peace to that fine man. Cheers, man. All right. Well, we've had an awesome time. This is it's just like talking to a friend sitting up at a bar stool, just like hanging out, talking. Major vibes, as Casey would say. Brittany's excited to get the gong going. John, thank you for pouring energy, good stories, ideas into our guests. This is going to be fire content. We're going to break it down every which way and cut it up so you have a lot of this good stuff. Listeners of the Rise podcast, you heard from John Morris with Club Colors. They make apparel, 11,000 SKUs. Anything you can imagine.
9 million.
9 million, just kidding. 9 million SKUs. It's a lot.
Damn.
9
can't even
million
think about
SKUs. This is good.
Little Dr. Evil,
That's a lot of
pinky
SKUs.
to the lip.
Oh, I love it. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. This is the Rise Podcast. Thanks for spending the last hour with us. This is Steve, Casey, Brittany with our guest, John Morris. John, thank you so much again, brother. We look forward to seeing you all on LinkedIn, social, out in public, whenever, wherever. Brittany will have a gong on a roller. You'll get to hit it really hard. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Peace out. We'll talk to you soon.
Cheers.